When you watch an advert, are you looking to be creeped out? Are you looking to be confused? Do you want to know what's going on? Well, today we're going to take a look at the weird and wonderful world of console adverts. Everything from adverts that got banned to adverts that just make you go, what the is going on? And I'm going to do it not on my own, no, but with the help of my friend, partner. Okay, it's my wife. It's my wife, Jane.
It's just disturbing. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, and like it's really like awkward because, you know, like video games have always had like a negative like representation by the mainstream, and then they've made this trailer with like a demonic baby on that's like crying and like talking in tongues a bit and glowing red eyes. It's really creepy. Obviously the animatronics of the doll's pretty good. Like, it does look like it's actually a demonic possessed doll.
It does make me wonder who was it aimed at? Like, who was the audience? Because a lot of videos that we'll look at, the audience seems to be either kids or parents. Whilst this one, it's like they were trying to aim it at like more young adults or like almost horror fans, which makes sense with a lot of the PlayStation games that came out. Like when we think of like Silent Hill and like the like Metal Gear Solid franchise and all that kind of stuff, like aiming it at that older audience does make sense. But it still seems like the weirdest video ever, like watching it in isolation and all those years afterwards.
From Sony's PlayStation come the greatest hits, all your old favorites.
Like the soft sounds of swarm in this
That juxtaposes quite well with like the video games audience, because it just doesn't go together. It's not what you expect, but also it's poking a bit of fun at that infomercial format. But yeah, I really liked that ad. I thought that was fun, and I feel like if they did that ad again now, like it probably would still stand out and it would be interesting. And obviously there's been a whole new culture of like bad infomercial type commercials since this one was made. So it'd be quite funny to see what a new version of that concept would look like.
It's very much like, especially when we looked at the last one, like where it ended up, it's like the complete opposite. It's like we're explaining what this is so that people will understand it and will feel comfortable.
There's humour there, like it is a bit of a piss take of that ad format because it's not a product that would normally be in that ad format. And you would expect them to have advertised it more like how they advertised toys at the time, like
the space hopper adverts. Is that what you're thinking of? Like the adverts that are like really like bouncy and like the kid like jumping around really excited.
Me? Excuse me. You are so totally whipped.
I'm Brad. Let's ride a bicycle bill for two. Then we can go to the potpourri store and then go buy sheets.
I always love when you kind of place characters from different franchises into a setting that you wouldn't normally see. So it's really fun that there's the Crash Bandicoot, and that's very in the reality of the scene, and then they've laid in the characters like Tomb Raider. And it looked pretty good considering like technology's not like the bestest thing at that time. It looked pretty convincing, and obviously Lara Croft was a bit blocky back in the days. Okay, so the premise is basically, why are you going to the cinema with your girlfriend when you could sit at home on your own and pretend that Lara Croft is sat next to you?
And like Googling the mods for making her naked, where it was just pixelated, like nothingness. That's what they're basically encouraging, is like, why are you going on a date when you've got Lara Croft at home?
Hello, citizens of Europe. As spokesperson for SAPS, the Society Against PlayStation, I'd like to talk to you about a menace threatening humanity. It's happening right here, in our very homes, and corrupting the lives of our loved ones. Yes, friends, I'm talking about this. It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut. How do you
Amazing.
know PlayStation is not anymore?
Love the sort of like 1950s setting and the decor. I would like to live in that house. There's a very nice looking house. It's very colourful and cute.
Almost like the Wes Anderson vibe going on as well, with like the colour matching and stuff. And I think it looks so cool now. It came out in 95.
Yeah, interesting, really interesting. I don't think you'd get away with that format now. It would be quite a bold move for someone to do something now, playing off the negatives like that.
Underestimate the power of PlayStation.
It's kind of like, yeah, making fun of itself. I'd say that they took it like a lot further. Like we started off with the PS3 video of the baby doll. I think that's like after that with the PS4 they did that whole video like singing in like different gaming situations, and I think that's the point where they kind of like went, okay, we need to keep the high production values, we need to keep the like really cool sets, but we can't be so like weird, like. But at this point I think it's almost like the start of them being like, can we weird people out?
All the fun of the fair type concept, and about how like maybe video games is more entertaining than going to the fun fair. Maybe I'm missing some lore from those games because they're not games that I'm really familiar with, but like I don't really understand why he like came out into a swamp at the end.
I'm not sure if it's like a subtle dig without saying anything at Nintendo, like coming out of the pipe into the swamp.
I totally didn't get that, but I totally feel like that might be what it is. It's like, do you want to come out of plumber pipes into shit, or do you want to like play a real game?
I want to know what you think of this next video.
I think I remember those ads. I think I remember that one. Oh dear. Just because that's the punchline for that one. I really like how unexpected this is. Like, you really don't know what it's going to lead up to. Although you make guesses, like, because at first I was like, oh, it's probably for a hunting game. It's probably going to have a Bambi moment. They're probably going to shoot the deer and it's going to be sad. But no, they totally flipped that narrative. They knew that that's what you thought was going to happen. And they were like, well, let us show you.
It has got those negative connotations we talked about with SAPs, like the whole gut feeling it's making you feel up until the end is, oh crap, oh dear.
I think I remember that ad as well. Obviously, it's referencing the movie Jaws, all the styling of the outfits and the like baiting of the shark is all like representations of scenes from Jaws, and they did it in a really good cinematic way that was really on it, pays respects to that original movie. You can tell who's been there is the tagline. It sounds disgusting. Especially jumping into a pool of blood and guts. Like, who has been there? Really? I personally don't know that many PlayStation players who would jump into a pool of blood, but I don't know, it's memorable, it was well shot, it was cinematic.
What did that marketing meeting look like when they were discussing what we should do is not show the console at all? That's the first thing in a marketing meeting, right? But second, what we should also do is have a guy in like tight underwear jumping into a body of water that has blood in it.
The gospel train is a-comin', I hear it just at hand. I hear the car wheels moving and a rumbling through the land. Oh, get on board. Get on board. Get on board. There's room for many more. I hear the bell and whistle coming around the curve. She's playing all her steam and power and straining every nerve. Oh, get on board.
How did they do some of that? That was a lot of people. It was World War Z, the movie? Yeah, World War Z energy there going on with the piles of hee-haw, which is pretty much a nightmare for me. Like, I would not like to be there. I know they were trying to make that look fun, and it was supposed to be about fun, but that looked fucking awful. Like, that looked scary, and like there was definitely deaths happening. But no, it's all about fun, of course.
A lot, yeah, there's people getting hurt there. That you're not supposed to, like, the fun is the person at the top. The fun is like the person who's happy at the end of the video. The rest of the video is a load of people trying to get to the top, suffering like massively.
It's a metaphor for reality.
Yeah.
Everyone fights each other, and then one white guy at the end, he wins. This is what happens when you get either the actual David Lynch or a David Lynch loving emo to make a PlayStation advert.
Yeah, it's got Eraserhead visuals, some of them, like even down to his haircut, and one of the shots that it does of like the front of his face, I think is really, really similar to that.
Very strange. I don't know what to say, honestly. I'm quite speechless. Like, I don't know what any of that stuff means. It looked cool. It was black and white. Why did the man's head come off?
Do you like getting high and weird shit? This is for you. Like, also, this is now going into like a more professional, like cinema quality. Like, if you're a film fan, you should look at PS2, because you'll not only be able to play the DVDs, which was huge at the time, and I think like it's easy to just say, oh, it included a DVD player, but DVD players were such a big thing. Like, my dad was like so hyped when they came out, because you could buy things that had Spanish and English, and you could swap the languages and have it both on one. And I think it was a trend at the time to do weird stuff, like even if we're going more comedy related, Belly's Gonna Get You, stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? That was this it. Like, it's just like, what the hell's going on? Like, that doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes a memorable experience that people are going to talk about next day at work or at school.
Let me tell you what bugs me about human endeavour. I've never been the human in question. Have you?
I remember that one too. Is that a real person? It looks like a real person who looks like an alien, and I'm sure she's had that said to her before, so I don't mean to be mean, but I think that was like a casting choice, is that they're still trying to play on this like otherworldly oddness, like there's something like off about her. Obviously I love her Scottish accent, that was amazing, and the script was really well written and interesting. Really like this concept of mental wealth instead of health.
I'm not sure how to feel about this one. Like, I love her. I think she's incredible in the advert. She's like one of the coolest, like as you said, her accent's incredible and she looks really cool. Yeah, it feels a bit odd to me.
Next, please.
Ma che sei? Tu sei veramente un Mi guarda la mano?
Come on, hurry up.
Sei pesantissima!
Oh, come on, baby.
Great evolution of the previous adverts that we saw. So they've still got that cinematic theme. They're still like playing off a specific genre of movies. I also feel like that one's probably referencing like games like GTA. It's almost an amalgamation of like all those sort of gangster type games into like a really short clip that kind of portrays like the action and the feelings and the fun of it.
Going into PS3 era with this one, I think that they found the perfect balance of how to do adverts. You've got the baby ad that we started with, which is them being like sticking to being super weird and out there, but in that advert they did have the console. And then this ad where they don't show the console, it just makes sense. Like, I think as soon as the grenade falls on the floor, you're like, cool, this isn't just a really beautifully styled and shot advert, which I think again is very of the time when this came out. We're gonna have a look at Nintendo next.
We are Nintendo Ultimate TV Game System. Aim your zapper gun. You cannot beat us. Even with your robot partner, you cannot beat us. Discover new worlds.
Wow. So apparently the voiceover for this one was the Daleks from Doctor Who. That was intense, and obviously there's some technology limitations going on here. I quite like it. I think if you did a version of this now, it would still be good. Like, I think it's the sort of thing that people would make a lot of memes and gifs of. I feel like I'm going to have like weird nightmares about that one. It also has like Five Nights at Freddy's vibes.
Yeah, it's nightmare inducing for sure. It's like one of the creepiest adverts, just the "you cannot beat us" voice is odd. But it's funny that you said about if it got redone.
Is this just a fan made?
Even with your
Yes.
robot partner.
See, it's still good.
The eagle has landed. I repeat, the eagle has landed. I'm on him.
Hey, buddy, you got the time?
Sure, it's,
Hey, aren't you the...
We were talking about lack of diversity in gaming. This ad is a personification of the games industry of this era. It's given me if Jim Carrey directed Reservoir Dogs. It's really long, and it feels like almost like a political campaign video, you know, like when you just like talk about how crap everyone else is to show off how good you are, because that's a nice fair thing to do in marketing.
Mainly it's Sega digging fun of other brands, and yet here we've got Nintendo almost being like, you know what, we're fed up with it.
Or else, plumber boy here gets
Oh no!
what are you guys doing with Mario?
No! Leave Mario out of this.
Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers, too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get Zelda.
Awesome.
Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up. The Legend of Zelda sold separate.
Nintendo, your parents help you hook it up. First off, why is that kid Colonel Sanders? He's like the child's KFC mascot. The rap is awful. But yeah, obviously it's the 90s, I'm guessing, in this era, so rap is big, so they decided to make a rap about Zelda.
I'm guessing Vanilla Ice was massive at the time because it was one of like the hip hop records that helped break hip hop through. Well, I'd class it as the Run DMC record, but yeah, that's what gets said. I'm guessing it's probably before Suge Knight hanged him over a balcony. It's an odd advert which I've just found amazing, but like in the worst way ever. But just amazing.
Responsible adults aren't supposed to have fun. Wake up. We can do whatever we want. Drive racing cars to work.
First off, that made me really stressed about the state of mind of the cameraman for most of those shots, because they had a lot of stuff thrown at their faces, and if that was me, all the shots would be shaky because I would have absolutely flinched every time. And I know like some of those shots, like they added the ball in artificially afterwards, especially the baseball one, but some of the others were not, so I was just like, I wonder how many times someone got hit in the face.
We're at the era there of having to tell adults they can do what they want. Like they'd grown up with Pong, or they'd grown up with arcade machines, and it's almost having to remind them, look, it's okay, you're allowed to play games too.
When you decide to step up to this kind of power, this kind of challenge.
So I've seen this one before because it's got Paul Rudd in it, and that is Paul Rudd this time. It's not us thinking it's someone. That is definitely Paul Rudd, and he hasn't aged much, has he? Like he is a young Paul Rudd, but he kind of looks like that still now, which is good for him. And yeah, I think it's cool. I like that idea of like you've got some technology that's so amazing and impressive, and you're young Paul Rudd, so you're very handsome. and everyone wants to come and play with you.
I'm guessing no one knew who Paul Rudd was at the time. I'd have to look into it. Had he done any TV? I'm guessing that's like his breakthrough. He might have done Clueless.
Is it Clueless?
Yeah, but Clueless is like 90s. Yeah, Clueless is 95. I'm pretty sure this was quite a bit before then. Advert-wise, it's pretty standard console ad. It's what you expect of a console ad. It's not like the weird ones we've looked at, but I had to include it because Paul Rudd.
How many times did we say Paul Rudd? Okay, so let's just assume this was international or it was shown in the West. This is probably the first time we've seen a Nintendo ad where it actually had Japanese people in, and obviously that brand is really famously Japanese, so it's cool to see that being represented in the setting and the casting. Probably an era where a lot more people are getting introduced to anime and stuff like that as well, so people have like more of a reference point of what Japanese culture is than they might have done previous. It had a lot of tropes from video games and also from anime in it.
I'd also be interested in seeing which came first, the mountain or this. When you start watching all these adverts next to each other and getting an idea of what the different brands were doing, you maybe start noticing that, yeah, maybe PlayStation weren't openly saying stuff about their competitors, but they were very much sending hidden little digs at them. Stuff that if you were a gaming fan, you'd be like, yeah, like I know what they're referencing.
One thing was that I noticed straight away what it was for because all the games was in cubes. So that was the Nintendo GameCube, which was a console that I really loved. It's got a smiley face on the end with this little mouth lit up, which I didn't notice before. And I feel like that advert had like PlayStation vibes at first because I was a bit confused. I was like, surely this is for the GameCube because they're games that are in cubes. But it had PlayStation energy.
I think it's definitely a PlayStation video. It's them like being like, we can do this too, which I actually think is a really interesting point because when you look at what they've done with the Nintendo Switch, they've moved away from that. Even with the Wii, I think they'd moved away from that, and they realised that maybe being Nintendo and very Nintendo and very proud of what Nintendo was would do better for them. I think the Nintendo GameCube was super underrated. Like, I thought it was so cool and I wanted one so much, but it was competing against a lot of other consoles that were doing really well, and PlayStation was killing it at the time.
Some of you believe your system is the most advanced in the universe. Let's review the numbers. Sega Genesis is 16 bits. 3DO is 32 bits. The Atari Jaguar is 64 bits. Which is more advanced?
So yeah, apparently Atari had a console called Jaguar and it's 64 bits. I got the message. But yeah, I've literally never heard of it before. And yeah, I feel stupid for it. But it was a bit weak that was the only thing that was better, that it was 64 bits. Like, just because you got more bits doesn't mean it's better.
I think the advert stinks of like desperation. Like, while some of the other ones we've watched are like throwing digs at the competitor, this one is like the way she's screaming at the camera is almost like the board meeting. Like, that's what they said to her at the board meeting. Why is no one buying this? There's 64 bits. And it kind of gives that impression of like, why does no one understand that this is better? Like, we keep telling you, no one wants to buy it.
Like, it made me think of Anchorman. What's his Sex Panther? It's another Paul Rudd reference. Yeah, it made me think of something that would be an Anchorman, like some like macho, like clueless guy was just like, what sounds powerful and strong and manly and like the best? Jaguar, like the car that already exists.
Gotta go. Hey, guy, you're the first serious gamer I've seen all morning. Check this out. Brand new 16-bit Super Nintendo with Super Mario World. Wow!
Oh, what's this one?
Oh, this is a Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega Genesis.
Love it because Sonic is better. And I think if you asked a lot of kids at the time who you would prefer, like Mario, this little old plumber guy who's a little plumber guy, or if you want to be a really fast blue hedgehog, like I think most people are going to choose Sonic, I'm afraid. So I thought that was quite funny, and I've not seen it before.
I was going to say it was only Italians that preferred it. And then I'm like, did they even like it? Because they were just all pissed off. Like, why the fuck are they taking the piss out of our accent? I loved the Mario game, but as a character, Sonic seemed a lot cooler as a kid. But I love the advert because it set Sega up as the kings of throwing digs at competition. Like you're about to see.
There are lots of good reasons to go with Sega Saturn instead of Nintendo. We call them games.
Didn't like the voice. I couldn't actually hear what he was saying half the time, personally. And my eyes are bleeding from too many fonts of questionable quality. I don't think it aged well.
So this is actually part of a series of adverts they did, and they didn't just go after Nintendo.
Compare Sega Saturn's games to games on Plaything. Sega has a long history of creating true arcade games.
I don't really like the vibes of like digging at competitors. Like I'd rather they would just show why theirs was better rather than like pooping on the competitors.
It wasn't better. That was part of the issue, is it had been developed like, yeah, they had amazing games. Yeah, PlayStation was new, but like a back catalogue of games wasn't going to save them from what PlayStation was about to do. I love the little baby holding the PlayStation. I just think it's the creepiest.
Hey, that's Valkyrie. Does he design the games? No, he executes them.
Valkyrie, driver 41, ready to download.
Oh man, my favourite thing of that was when there was like the real life car crash juxtaposed with the little pixely thing. It was like real life expectations versus reality of video games, and like I don't think they realised like that actually looked really bad in that setting.
Things were advancing so fast that it was such a big deal that games could have that, like those physics in it and stuff, that I think people were still kind of like, it was like a magic trick. People were still kind of convinced by it at that time. Whilst now, looking back at it with where it's ended up, it's like, oh crap, that was really bad.
I think it also fits into things like extreme sports culture of the time as well, like BMX and skating. The excitement and the thrill of thinking that they could do like an extreme sport without the danger.
For sure, the like PS1, the first Tony Hawk's, like that kind of like thing was massive at that point.
Hey man, get portable. Get a Game Gear Supersonic Sports Pack.
I've never seen that console before.
Neither.
Maybe not either. It might have just been an America thing. We should look up. But yeah, I think that was much more of a straightforward ad than some of the other ones. But yeah, I really don't like that scary lady at the end shouting Sega at us. She can go away.
When we watched the Nintendo one and it was like, your parents will help you set it up. Now you're at the point 5-6 years later of being like, oh no, the kids know what's new. The kids know what's new. You've got outdated technology, which I find super interesting.
You are approaching Saturn. You are only seconds away.
We are 5 years away from entering the 21st century.
Introducing Sega Saturn. Aww. Hit it. Sega, the benchmark of engineering excellence, combining three 32-bit processors with 5 processors to create a
That was a bit chaotic in my opinion. Like it felt like, well, at first I felt like they just didn't have a style guide and that they'd just got like 10 different totally unrelated people to just make random stuff that they then forced together into an edit. But then as I watched it through, I started realising that maybe the concept was that it was supposed to be like you were flicking through TV channels of the future and that these were all different programmes. It was really weird with the lady at the start with the bald head. Like, I feel really bad for her if she actually had to shave her head for that or something. Like, I don't think it was worth it. And it's just like the opposite of what comes after it. Like, yeah, some interesting moments, some interesting styling, but overall combined, a bit confusing in my opinion.
I think it set the tone for companies doing stuff that was actually weird and confused people, but was like them through and through. I think that it foreshadowed the Dreamcast and them going their own spacey way, and I think that it should have been a console that got a lot more attention.
Could it have been that these were the commercials that they played in electronics stores on the TV? Like, and it was just cycling, and that's why it would be longer, right? Because if someone's in the store for like 30 minutes, you don't want them to see the exact same advert.
So we're almost at the end, and people might wonder why there's not been much Xbox shown.
Came first, this or that episode of Spaced? Because yeah, it's the same concept of that episode of Spaced, which is like so iconic and amazing, and like is based on some like human truth as well. Like, I would have loved to been on that shoot. I bet it was a really fun shoot, and like getting the timing all correct and stuff like that. Like, and it just looks so funny when it's like the wide shot with like all those people. I think that was mega.
I think again, it's Microsoft. They had to say less than the competition. They didn't have to go weird or shocking like PlayStation. It's just quite a feel-good advert, done very well, very high budget. People knew who they were because the original Xbox had done well too. So that's a good one they did. This next advert ended up getting banned.
So I've actually seen that advert before, and this is testament to how this ad potentially failed, because like, now that I've rewatched it, it is a really good ad, and I don't think it deserved to be banned. Like, I don't think that was warranted. But I remembered that thinking it was a PlayStation ad. And obviously I was quite young when that came out, so probably not the best memory. But that's one of the errors with these ads, when you don't like have enough brand recognition, or you don't show the product, is that it's quite easy for people to misremember it and to associate it with something else. I think it's just I think probably people didn't like being reminded that they're gonna die. That was probably not the best way to sell a product, is to be like, oh, by the way, you're gonna die one day and it's gonna be ugly and horrible and terrible, so you best play video games whilst you can. Like, that sentiment's a bit too philosophical and deep for selling a console, but I think the production values are amazing, and I think it is a really well-made ad.
It appeals very much to people like me. Like, I think this applies to some of the earlier ones we watched with PlayStation specifically, and the Sega one that we were watching, where it's like a film experience as opposed to just a Mario game or a Sonic game. Like, now it's like, no, this has got depth, and this is like, yeah, philosophical. Like, there's games that make you think and ponder about life and ponder about death, and it's like, oh, that's okay, like, we can go deeper with this.
Billy Gibson is thinking about getting an Xbox. He's thinking about the 70 incredible titles like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and Halo. He's thinking about Xbox's awesome graphics and gameplay. What he's not thinking about is landing the 50-50 grind.
Anyone see my board?
I just thought I'd end the last one with that because I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so good. I thought it was a really normal advert and didn't expect that at the end.
Very of the time as well, because obviously skating was huge, and like Jackass and stuff like that was all that era. Yeah, I think it's really funny. It's just short and simple with a butt joke. Like, what more do you want? Like, kids think it's hilarious.
Simple with a butt joke, just what you want out of every advert. And that's it. That's a bunch of video game adverts that we thought were worth watching, that we thought were weird, good, bad, terrible, sometimes just confusing. Let us know if there's any that affected you as a kid. Did they give you nightmares? Did they make you go out and buy the console? We want to have a conversation. Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll catch you next time.